Hello, I'm Bill Leipold, and welcome to this edition of Breakfast at the Barracks. Joining me today is Dr. Golbarg Bashi, Professor of Iranian and Middle Eastern Studies at Rutgers, New Brunswick. Golbarg, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad to have you.
Thank you for the invitation.
I want to jump in. why don't you start us off in kind of what you're researching now and what your kind of research has involved before?
Right. My work is on the discourse of human rights in Iran. Mm-hmm. I've followed the discussions, the theories, and also the activism in modern Iran from a feminist perspective, to see what the trajectory of the discussions are, what kinds of challenges are found, both in theory and in practice.
You talk about modern Iran, so can you kind of give us a kind of context for what's a modern Iran and what's not a modern Iran?
Sure. Well, a modern history in terms of any country really is 19th century plus. Right. So when we talk about modern US, we're usually talking about 19th century and right. Forward. So modern Iran would be late 19th century to now, 20th century, 21st century. So.
And you also added into that you looking at the theories and the context from a feminist perspective. Sure. So can you give us kind of a perspective in terms of how that kind of relates to kind of looking at
sure.
the time in Iran?
Sure. Well, I started my own studies in Middle Eastern studies, but then I kind of switched over to women's studies, and then switched back to Middle Eastern studies. So I felt that for me, the theoretical framework of especially post-colonial feminist studies was useful at looking at Iran. So.
All right. So let's talk a little bit. I think most of our viewers will have a kind of conflicted perspective around Iran, especially around Iran and gender. So can you give us some context in terms of how Iran and gender kind of go together?
Yeah. Well, gender is everywhere, right. Obviously. Usually 50% of any population is women, and the other is men. So when you're talking about gender in Iran, you're looking at pretty much the same things as you would if you were looking at gender in the US. Gender relations, issues pertaining to women, discrimination among women and men, and so forth. So as a feminist scholar looking at Iran, I don't think I'm looking at anything different than my colleagues would who are working on, say, Great Britain or Russia or the United States.
There have been lots of reports by CBS, NBC, CNN around women, specifically in Iran. Sure. And they've kind of painted a picture that isn't exactly the most flattering for women in some ways, in terms of second-class citizens, not available to make some choices, those kind of things. Sure. Is that true, or is that just a Western kind of context to that?
Right. Well, women are second-class citizens everywhere on this planet. We don't have any country in the world that is truly gender equal. Right. We have come close in certain Scandinavian countries, but even there, domestic violence is rampant. Women get killed by a partner every other day. So with regards to Iran, what we have is kind of legal discrimination against Iran, on top of the cultural patriarchy that we have worldwide.
Right.
But what I think is missing in mainstream media is that we get to see the challenges, but we don't see the struggles against those challenges, and we don't see the triumphs. So I'll just give you a statistics. 24% of films that are made in Iran are made by women. Okay. That statistics is only 3 in the United States. Only 3% of movies are made by women in the United States. Now, by saying that, I don't mean to say that things are great in Iran, but women have made great strides. Iranian women have been at the forefront of anything that has gone on in their country in modern times. So if you travel to Iran, you will see women everywhere, despite the legal discrimination that exists. You have women in sciences, in fact more so than in America, engineering, mathematics, in professions that we would consider as male-dominated here. in Iran is a pretty natural choice for girls to go and study mathematics, for example, or to be engineers and so forth. So sure, legally there are many challenges, but in practice, women are struggling and they've made great strides.
I think one of the things we want to obviously can't stay away from is kind of the green movement that's happening in Iran, and specifically around Natalie, one of the folks who was really seen as a martyr and a hero around the kind of uprising over the past year. So can you talk a little bit about what it means to have a woman be a hero in that context, and kind of what the green movement is? And I'm not so sure folks really understand.
Green movement is an ecological movement. It refers to the color of the candidate, Mir Hossein Mousavi, the progressive candidate, who managed to gather a lot of support and votes. Now, when the votes were counted, Ahmadinejad seemed to have won a landslide victory, which Mir Hossein Mousavi's supporters didn't really agree with. So they went into the streets and protested, and they were wearing green, the color of the campaign. So the green refers to the color of the campaign, which the supporters have now taken further, and it's become a symbol of resistance. Now, with regards to Neda Sultan, she was a 26-year-old philosophy student, and she had been in the protests like millions of other Iranians. And what was particular about her death was that it was captured. The whole thing was captured on a cell phone video. So we get to see her almost being shot, and then she's standing and she falls, and they're trying to resuscitate her, people around her, and there was actually a doctor nearby. And so that's why Neda in particular became such a symbol. There have been many people who've been killed during these protests, peaceful protests that have been cracked down by the security forces of the Islamic Republic. But Neda, I guess because of the fact that the whole thing was captured on video, and that she was this, she was a citizen, a young Iranian citizen that had dreams and aspirations for herself and for her generation and so forth. I think that's why she has become a symbol. I'm not surprised at all. Again, women have been at the forefront of democratic movements in Iran, and we've had many iconic female figures in Iranian history. So the fact that it is a woman is not at all surprising. So
I think I want to talk a little bit about not just the political movement. The conversation here is really in Iran about a progressive candidate and kind of the president that's in charge right now, which is seen as a lot more conservative. So can you kind of talk about, in some ways I don't think it's different than the US, so can you talk a little bit about the struggle between both of the ideologies that are going on right now in Iran?
Sure. Well, more recently, especially since the 1990s, this is after the founder of the Islamic Republic, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, died, we began seeing a reform movement within the Islamic Republic, i.e. people who had been supporters of the revolution and of the Islamic Republic and its constitution, but who felt that they needed to reform, they needed to open up, to democratize a little bit, and so forth. And it had both intellectual and political force. So you had people who were writing about this, discussing this, and there were politicians who were trying to make reform. Now, by 1997, we have a progressive candidate, Mohammad Khatami, winning the elections on the promise of reforming. And he won a great number of votes by young people and by women especially. Didn't manage to do much, more so because of the way of the Iranian sort of the institutions of power are built. Some are democratic, some are undemocratic, and they don't really allow for parliament, even if the majority of the parliamentarians are, for example, reform-minded and from reformist parties and so forth. They're not really allowed to pass progressive bills, such as the Women's Convention and that was proposed. So by the time we come to 2009, Mir Hossein Mousavi was nominated as the candidate for the reformists. There was another candidate as well, Mehdi Karoubi, but Mir Hossein Mousavi became more popular because he had been prime minister during the 1980s.
Oh, okay.
And he's a socialist in his economy, and he had managed during those 8 years of war with Iraq, when Iran really was at the brink of perhaps a humanitarian crisis. He managed to stop that because of his sort of kind of socialist interventions. There was food shortages, there was shortage of electricity, petrol, all of these things. So he had some credibility from his time as a prime minister, but he had also resigned since '88, and he'd gone home. He's a painter, he's an artist, and he happens to be married to a feminist woman, Zahra Rahnavard, who was with him during the campaign in 2009. And she has been a very vocal feminist throughout the years. She's been the president of a university before and so forth. So them together campaigning and she speaking on his behalf, and especially talking about gender equality and promises that Khatami had made, but kind of taking it a little further, again, attracted the interest of the electorate, which are primarily young people.
Wow, those 15 minutes went by fast. My producer's in my ear saying the time is up.
Right.
First of all, I want to thank you for kind of shedding some light on some of the historical kind of context as well as the political context. Sure. I think our viewers and I learned a great deal about that, so thanks so much. I hope to have you back on the show again. I think we have a lot to learn, a lot more discussions to have.
Absolutely.
So thanks for making the trip in today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So we'll be right back. Hello, I'm Bill Leipold, and welcome to this edition of Breakfast at the Barracks. Joining me is Dr. Lele, professor and chair of the Department of Supply Chain Management and Marketing Sciences for the Rutgers Business School in Newark and New Brunswick. Lele, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I think the first thing that folks kind of want to know is, what is supply chain management? There seems to be a lot of conversation about it, but I'm not sure if our viewers clearly understand the concept.
Sure. Let me start with what is a supply chain.
Okay.
Supply chain is a very lengthy process. It starts from the moment you got this innovative idea for a new product or new service, and all the way to the moment your product or your service arrive at the marketplace.
Okay.
So you start from R&D, the purchasing, procurement, getting raw materials, get contract suppliers, and then manufacturing, and the distribution, warehousing, all the logistics issues, and the sales management all the way. This lengthy process is called a supply chain process. And the supply chain management refers to managing the business operations and the policies and strategies along this business process.
Now, one of the things that I think because it's such a lengthy process, where does one begin to examine it? Do you begin to examine it at the very beginning? I mean, because in the middle, or how does one begin to examine the process itself?
The process, by definition, is end to end.
Okay.
And however, as academic researchers, they typically focus on particular issue along the process. And this, in general, supply chain management has been a very important thing to our daily business. There's a very famous book published in 2006. It's called The World is Flat by Thomas Friedman. In that book, the author listed 10 driving forces that are changing the world. Among the 10, 7 of those are related to supply chain management, such as outsourcing or offshoring. Because the world is changing, the industry changing, and the way we do business has also been changing all the time. In today's industry, no one can afford to do everything by itself.
Right.
Everyone got to focus on their core competence and outsource the non-core to external company, to someone else, because that's someone else's core competence. Someone else can do it at a lower cost with better quality, because that's their competence. Therefore, your business performance depends on not only what do you do, how do you do it, but also what do your business partner do, supply chain partner, how do they do it together with you. So together, make it a business. I give you an example.
Okay.
About 10 years ago, Toys R Us first time started mail order service.
Right.
With confidence. They had a lot of toys in the warehouse, even though made in China, but arrived in US warehouse. They also got a lot of overwhelming amount of customer orders. That's the first time people do the mail order for Toys R Us for their Christmas gift. However, the Christmas gift the customer ordered did not arrive customer house until the first week of January.
Oh, so it missed the holiday completely.
That's right. And what happened? Logistics partner, their supply chain partner, failed to deliver on time. And the Toys R Us end up with paying each disappointed customer a $100 gift certificate. And so that is just an example. I'll give you another example. Many of us, we all have a Dell computer, a laptop at home. If you look at the laptop, how many parts or components do you think it has there? Few hundred or few thousand?
Right.
Well, Dell doesn't make all those parts by itself. Dell works with a whole group of suppliers. If any of the supplier fail to deliver a quality parts, components on time, Dell's customer satisfaction will be affected.
Right.
There's another story I just learned, a very interesting one. Boeing 787 Dreamliner.
Oh, the Dreamliner.
Yeah, remember that story? 2008. Boeing decided to change the history of an aircraft manufacturing process. Instead of spending weeks or months to build a large aircraft, Boeing told his supplier, you sub-assemble all those major sections of an aircraft.
Right.
And then at Boeing, we're going to make the final assembly and testing in 3 days. So we get the aircraft done in 3 days.
Right.
Overwhelming amount of orders from 56 major airline company over the world, worth over $144 billion orders. Then what happened? Major delay. Major delay. Boeing couldn't deliver the aircraft on time. The delay was months over a year. And it's not a lack of technology. It's not a lack of resource, lack of a customer order. It's a lack of supply chain management strategies.
So we talk about this process. We talk about looking from one end to the other. How does a professor begin to teach from one end to the other? Because it sounds like there's a lot to kind of cover. So how does one begin to construct a class and to be able to teach MBA students about the process, because there's so much there?
Yeah, we start with the case studies. We bring in the real life supply chain management issues and into the classroom. And so we have those fundamental courses like supply chain management strategies for MBA student, like intro to supply chain management to the undergraduate student.
Okay.
And then so let the student to have a general picture about the supply chain process. And then we have in-depth different kind of courses, elective courses, technology courses, to give our students enough preparation for them to meet the demand from industry and the job market. Actually, last year, 2009, we're in the middle of an economic recession, but our MBA in supply chain management, our job placement rate is 100%.
Oh, wow, congratulations, that's great.
And our internship placement rate has been 100% for 3 years in a row already. And we started a new undergraduate major in supply chain and marketing science about a year ago. And the official approval from New Jersey State was 2 days ago. And so that means a year ago, we did not have that official. And we shared the news with the industry in about 3 weeks, we received 14 scholarships
wow.
from industry dedicated to the undergraduate who are going to major in this field. So the demand is there.
Well, one of the things that I've been very privileged to do is get a chance to work with you for even a short time. And that time was really when you were establishing the department. And there was a real specific need for you to establish the department.
Right.
Can you talk, there's 100% placement with your interns, 100% placement with your graduates. So really the industry in some ways is really driving.
The driving force. The new department has 23 corporate sponsors. Those are large companies in New Jersey, just name it, from Johnson & Johnson to Pfizer. And they serve as a corporate sponsor. They have to take a lot of responsibility. Not only they contribute scholarship, they contribute funding for faculty research.
Okay.
They also hire from us. And they also jointly design the curriculum together with our academic faculty. They give the input. Okay. And based on the challenge they faced, based on the future challenge they can anticipate, they share with our faculty, and our faculty build into our academic curriculum.
So what you're saying on the MBA level and on the undergraduate level, there really is a connection between theory and practice and being able to get industry input in terms of kind of real life cases that are happening.
Exactly. So that's why we have been running this supply chain management program very successfully. A week ago, December 3rd, we had a group of our undergraduate students. They wanted to Phoenix participate in national supply chain case competition with those well-established top supply chain programs in the country. They have been there, the program there, undergraduate major there for over 20 years. We're new, you see, we just been approved 2 days ago. And Rutgers team is the #1.
I was going to say they won. It was in the Targum. It was all over the news. So
that's right. Our student, great. One student came back Saturday midnight from Phoenix back to New Jersey. On Monday, he got a phone call from Accenture. And Accenture offered him a job.
So it really is that kind of synergy and that connection in terms of what's going on.
That's right.
I want to thank you for being here. I think you've kind of shed a lot of light on the subject and kind of help folks understand that, but it's time for us to go.
Oh, okay.
Oh, see, that went by really fast.
Okay.
Well, that's all we have for this edition of Breakfast at the Barracks. For more information about any of the subjects we've discussed here today, please visit our website at rutgers.tv. So, thanks again.